He's been played through. He's onside. The goalkeeper's been lobbed. It's gone in. What a goal!
Hey everybody, I'm Robbie Straczynski and welcome to episode number 13 of The Orbit. We are live on twitch.tv/poker. Thank you very much for tuning in and we look forward to your comments and questions throughout the episode. I'd like to encourage you to please go ahead and take a moment right now to spread the word on Twitter that the action at our four-handed table is live. Poker video content, that's where it's at right now, everyone, whether it's online poker streaming, vlogging, webinars, or the broadcasting of live poker play. People are tuning in like never before, and it's an area of our industry that warrants some extra attention. We've gathered a great group for our roundtable discussion, each of whom has experienced a good deal of success on the video poker content front. So, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce this episode's panelists. In Seat 1, we have Jonathan Little. Jonathan is a professional poker player with over $8 million in combined live and online tournament poker earnings. He's the author of 16 best-selling poker books and owns the interactive training site PokerCoaching.com. He was voted by his peers as the 2019 GPI Poker Personality of the Year. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
In Seat 2, we have Jamin Burton, one of poker's top vloggers with approximately 40,000 subscribers. Jamin has cranked out over 200 videos on his The Drawing Dead YouTube channel over the last 4 years. A cash game specialist who keeps on raising the poker vlogging bar in terms of creativity and production value, Jamin Starr continues to rise in our industry. Jamin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me as well.
In Seat 3, we have Jeff Gross, a co-managing director of Team Party Poker Online with over $5 million in combined live and online lifetime tournament poker earnings. Jeff is also an accomplished podcaster and an ambassador for the venerable Cards Chat forums. He's one of the hardest working and most popular content creators in our industry. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So hello, everybody. Thank you so much for making the time to join me today. I'm really looking forward to today's live roundtable discussion. So let's just jump right in with Jonathan in Seat 1. All right, guys, we'll start a little bit more on the local front with talking a little bit about each of you. And as we progress with our topics, we'll go a little bit more generic and global. So start local, start personal. What's working well these days, in your opinion, in the video content sphere? Do you personally have any particular influences on that front? And do you have an overarching goal, perhaps, of trying to bring new players into the game? Jonathan, you've got the button.
Oh my God, that's a big question. 3 questions. Okay. So what works? What works is putting out consistent, high quality content, right? It's pretty clear which content creators do the work to make good content, and they do perhaps good editing, or they stream all the time to where they're being very, very consistent, right? Whatever you do in the content creation space, it seems like it has to be consistent, which I realize is difficult for poker players because poker players live, very, very hectic schedules, especially if they're tournament players where they're traveling around France and having parties like Jeff. Whereas, it's a little bit easier if you're a cash game player because you can, you put in your hours at the table and then you go home and make your content. But you have to figure out what works for you, right? And like, I know for me personally, I have a wife and 2 kids running around. I cannot be streaming all the time, right? So I don't do much streaming. Whereas other people, streaming is perfect for them because maybe they don't like editing videos like you have to do on YouTube. So got to put out high quality content on a regular basis. Who inspires me? everybody who's in there doing the work, right? People who better the community, who, essentially represent poker in a positive light. I think those people they do great work. And I think a lot of the vloggers don't necessarily get the credit they deserve, because very often when you are vlogging, you are showing off the highs, but also the lows, right? There are a lot of people who try to make it seem like poker is all about winning all the time, but it's not. Sometimes you lose. Sometimes you play poorly. Sometimes you play great, right? And it's important to represent that realistically, at least in my opinion. And I mean, to bring new players into the game, just try to help out people, right? Always try to add value. And if you help out a lot of people, they will in turn help you back, right? I've made a bunch of good connections in the poker space because I've helped them out in some way, right? If you add a lot of value, good things will come.
I like it. Just to sort of follow up and expand a little bit on that who influences you question, is there anyone outside of poker who perhaps you derive a little bit of influence and inspiration from?
Oh, man. There's this guy named Pat Flynn who has a podcast called the Smart Passive Income Podcast, which I studied a long time ago. And it sort of inspired me to make my poker training site, pokercoaching.com, where it's not really passive income because you have to work all the time. But it's essentially about, you get in there and you add a ton of value. You create something from nothing, and you take the skills that you have to help other people who want to have those skills. And poker players who are pretty good at poker are in a great spot to do that if they feel like doing the work.
I like it. Good answer. Good answer there. Jamin, you've got position on Jonathan. Maybe you want to take what he said, but of course, this is a little bit of an individual question. Of course, as I mentioned in the intro, you are just super, raising the bar as far as the creative front. So I wonder if that's perhaps influenced by, okay, well, what I tried doesn't necessarily work, or let's try to do this, but why? Is there an underlying reason? Is it your creativity, or you're striving to do something else with your content? Let's take those same questions and see what you have to say there.
Sure. I think Jonathan hit a lot of nails on the head. Consistency, constantly putting stuff out there, which I admit I'm not the best at. But also, if I could add to that, it'd be authenticity. I think a lot of the more popular content creators are authentic, and you can see it in what they produce. When it comes to me, I sort of lean into my creative side. I get bored very easily creating the same thing, so I think that kind of comes through in my content, that I'm constantly trying to switch things up. What else is working in the vlogger space right now? Personality, I think really shines through. And I don't know if having a bombastic, energetic, like gregarious personality is really, it's definitely the minority in the poker space. So that comes through in the vlogging space in spades. As far as my influences, that changes constantly. When I first got into poker vlogging, my number one influence by far was another vlogger named The Trooper. And then that sort of bled into me finding like Andrew Neeme, me leaning more heavily on Andrew Neeme, me leaning more heavily incorporating things that I'd learned from like Jonathan Little, Bart Hansen, like getting some more into hand analysis. Now, when I think of my influences, they're not in the poker space at all. My creativity comes from more of like the Peter McKinnons and the Casey Neistats and the people that like have elevated vlogging like to another level, or at least they did in their time. So I look at them to get my creative juices flowing. As far as bringing more players into the game, I think for good or for bad, we kind of have a corner on that market. Poker in the TV space has kind of dwindled down to nothing, especially if you talk about poker in the free space in front of a paywall. So the poker personalities that I sort of grew up with,
Right.
the TV poker pros from the early 2000s have, in a way, kind of become us. It's become the bloggers, it's become the Jeffs, it's become the podcasters. It's so, which is very I don't know. It's sometimes it feels like a lot of pressure that's put on you in that space because there's so many more people know you than you know. But that's great. You know, I mean, that's as long as I think it's great as long as you are being authentic, as long as you're being real, as long as Jonathan said you're showing the highs and the lows and everything in between. I think people can get a complete picture of poker using the content that's out there.
I like that. That's a great answer. I'm surprised you didn't shout out the Marvel Cinematic Universe or some sort of comic book something or other that we've seen.
Yeah, I could have done that. I could have thrown that in there. There's definitely I guess that kind of bleeds into my creativity. Like I know for me personally, and I know I'm definitely in the minority here, but when I'm watching poker vlogs, I really don't want to see 15 minutes of hand analysis. That's not entertaining for me. I want to see a story. I want to, see a story with a complete arc, with a beginning, a middle, and end. I want to know something about the person that is playing the game. When it comes to doing hand analysis and breaking down why Ace Jack suited is a fold in this spot, there are so many more people better at it than me. Like I might be last on the list. But when it comes to like telling a story in like a creative way and trying to keep people entertained for 15 to 20 minutes, I think I'm pretty good at that.
For sure. And of course, someone else who knows all about people keeping people entertained, the master of the Poker Flow show. That's Jeff. You've got your last to act. So you've heard what our other panelists have had to say. I'm curious to hear your take on it. What's working for you and what are your influences? And also, are you striving to bring people into the game with what you create in poker video content?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, some great points made. I think, for myself that I also, it's exactly what has been said, that there are people, if you want to get analysis and whatnot, that is available. So what are you doing differently? What are there's so many great creators now. What I'm sort of noticing, and again, I'm not going to speak for everyone here, but myself, and something I wish I did more of is watch other vlogs and Twitch streams and stuff, because I do pop in and I mean, it's amazing. Like I'll watch 5-10 minutes of a vlog or a stream and I'll be like, wow, I like that guy's overlay, or, oh, wow, like why is my vlogs, why don't they look like this with how the cards are being shown and the action being done? So, it is very helpful to pick up on other people. And I just you see rising stars, so many popular YouTube vlogs, so many new Twitch streamers. And I think part of that's with the pandemic. Part of it is just people are, I think, less afraid and taking some chances, because it's really hard to start. I think that's the hardest part. And that's almost true in anything. But I just remember my first vlog ever on YouTube. I went to a 10-day silence meditation retreat, no talking, no writing, no reading, no anything, which is like, I'm like the most disconnected person. I'm always on my phone. I'm always doing whatever. So that was a very awakening experience. And I got a lot of creative ideas and I wanted to start a vlog on YouTube and whatnot. But I just remember when I started, like I didn't know what I was doing. I was just filming stuff, walking around and put it out there, right? Like if you go back, if I look at my first one, I think that's just like so many more people are with technology, with like, oh, I can do it on my phone or I can do it this way. I think so many more people are taking the plunge and just getting into it. But at the same time, a lot of people I think do try it and then they just kind of fade out. So I have a lot of respect for, anyone that has put the time in. You're talking about 200 videos here, 300 videos here. I mean, Jonathan Little is a actual, he just is a walking content machine. Like he's like a Gary Vee content, stuff, like books and this and that. So it's like, there's that method. It's cool because I think, like, again, the game's growing. I'm very motivated to bring players to the space. For me, I think I have a very unique sort of position. And as Jamal mentioned before about, like kind of like these guys like Esfandiari, Daniel Negreanu, Phil Hellmuth, the Ivies, right? These are the guys everyone idolized, Tom Dwan, like growing up, and these personalities, and Phil Locke and whatever, right? Like now it's sort of like those are the people, those guys and females, they're sort of like, I don't want to say retired, they're doing other stuff, they're less motivated, they're less hungry, they've kind of made their money, or they're still guys involved. Daniel and Phil, super hot, grinding and around, but like, if you could make an argument that even like a Twitch streamer that's been around for 2 years is going to be more known and popular for most of the masses, because that's what people are seeing now. So I think it's just a lot of things are working in poker, and a lot of reason why you're seeing the largest WPT sides in WPT Hard Rock, right? Which was early this year with everyone in mass. I actually hopped in, played. It was like day 2 or 1B or C or whatever was like, couldn't even get in. You know, to register, it was like you had to wait and get in like last minute. Set the record by a lot, like 2,400, I think it was 2,495 or something, where the previous was 1,800. Online series are booming. It just seems like poker is a really good place. And I think that has a lot to do with content creators. One more thing I will say is when I first did my World Series, like I started a vlog, I think 2017 was my first YouTube vlog. And I had a camera and a guy came up to me and I'd probably put out like 6 or 7 vlogs. I had my camera at the table. It was maybe a 1,500 WSOP side event. And the guy was like, came up to me and I thought he was like, started talking. I was like, oh, he's going to say he's seen my vlog or something. But he was like, you know, Doug Polk. And I was like, yeah. You know, we're friendly, and you know, yeah, of course I know Doug. He's like, man, that's why I'm here. He's like, I watched one of Doug's videos, and this guy used to play poker, and he was in California, drove up, played the World Series. But it just shows you, like, you know, Doug's a very polarizing figure, but he puts out a ton of content, a ton of, you know, video and analysis and breakdowns and other stuff, and has a humor with it, and like he's bringing people into the game. People, you can like him or hate him, love him or hate him. People are coming because of him. There's so many different styles. You know, people are able to find people they enjoy, the styles they enjoy. And for me personally, I think, again, I go on tangents, I get sidetracked and I talk a lot, so cut me off anytime. But I was going to say, like, for me, I think I'm in an interesting place because I'm like kind of a hybrid, right? I played some live poker. I've got some good results. I played for a while, but I also then did like a Twitch grind for several years, which a lot of streamers on Twitch don't have that live sort of flavor. Like you look at their mob results and it's like, you know, no one really has over like 100K in earnings. So like I've dipped into that. I've done the Twitch, I've done the podcast. So I kind of offer a little bit of a unique flavor to all of it. And then also on top of that, I think I'm in a pretty unique position where I realize I'm not the best player in the world. You know, I have some good results. I think I'm a pretty good poker player, but I know that to be in the top 0.01%, top, you know, 1%, the guys that are doing solvers and the best of the best, right? They're at a different level. I'm kind of like in the middle, like, look, hey, I'm not trying to say I'm the best player in the world. You know, I'm the best. Like that doesn't really work. It's like, hey, I want to help you get better. I want to get better. And poker is great because even the best in the world are always working to get better. So I think it's kind of like a, you know, unique place to come from and just if you have that mindset. And I think it's fun to sort of like go along the journey with people that can kind of come in. Maybe they're better, maybe they're worse, but together, you know, we're going to constantly be learning, working, and try to take ego out of it and do our best. So I think that's sort of the flavor and the thing I try to do. And I also do think it's such a beautiful game. Last thing I'll say on that is I do love people to come in the game. I think that you can learn a lot from poker. And I think it's good for anyone, whether it's kids, young, old, teach them a little bit of there's something they can take away from poker, and of course, responsibly gamble, this and that, right? That's obvious, but like people can get addicted to a lot of different things. And I think that, you know, poker is just a great thing to have in your toolkit, even if it means just understanding like the rules and sort of some basic principles. So I'll leave it at that.
That's definitely a comprehensive answer, and I wouldn't be one to cut you off or anything, but I do want to just remind all of you guys, feel free if you have questions for each other, you know, or something like that, or you want to follow up or challenge one of you guys, that's cool. And of course, to everyone watching on twitch.tv/poker, you're also welcome to chime in, and maybe we'll get some, some outside input to bring into this live episode. Our second question, our second topic kind of bleeds directly off of the first in a way. We talked about, you know, do you do what you do as far as producing video content to a degree to bring new players into the game? That is one measure of success, and that's something that perhaps you may have, perhaps other video content creators may have, but lots of folks, you know, well beyond the poker industry, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. Lots of folks, you look at, baseball with the sabermetrics, and you're always analyzing numbers and trying to tweak this. And of course, even in poker, that's what solvers are all about, and getting every little edge. I'm wondering if that is something that you folks try to do. To what degree do you analyze your metrics and analytics, and do you or do you not adapt and change your content to perhaps boost those numbers? Is that something important to you? Jamin, you've got the button for this one.
That's a really interesting question. And it's funny, depending on what year you would have asked me that question in, my answer would be vastly different. When I first started blogging, when I created my first blog, it was purely because I wanted to journal. I've always been a journaler. I have handwritten journals that go back to like the 7th or 8th grade. So when I saw this guy named Trooper like walk around a casino with a camera. I was like, oh, I want to try that. That looks like cool and like an easy way to journal and document this whole process I'm going through with poker. Analytics, SEO, tags, all that, not even in my wheelhouse, had zero clue about it. I just wanted to try to create a cool video, right? So I did that a couple times, posted one of them that sort of went like semi-viral in our space, right? And all of a sudden I had a few thousand subscribers. And it was at that point, so this is still early, this is maybe like 2017, early 2018. It was at that point I started looking like, well, how do I get more subscribers? What do I do? Oh, I need to put tags on here. I need to make a catchy title. I need to make a catchy thumbnail. And that was important to me for maybe a year or so. When Brad Owen, when his vlog took off, like hit the stratosphere, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, I did a deep dive into SEO again. Like, how did he do that? How did he fall into this algorithm that got him 500,000 subscribers or whatever he has? And I looked into it for a while, eventually came to the realization that for me personally, the metrics didn't really matter to me very much. The subscriber count doesn't matter to me very much. The views don't matter to me very much. The little, dust of money that YouTube gives us doesn't really matter to me very much. And I was more focused on just creating a good story. Like, I wanted to be able to sit down in front of my laptop with my content and do what I wanted to do, create when I wanted to create. And that was the most important and freeing thing for me. If blogging started to feel like a job, I'd quickly move on to something else. So for me, no, it's not metrics. It's not analytics now. But there were times in the past when it was about those things. Those things played a much bigger role than they do for me now.
I can imagine. Jeff, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this. And also there's that sort of a particular bent. At the end of the day, you are also a party poker ambassador as well. And, as a business, of course, they're always looking at their numbers and trying to get those edges as well. Is that a concern that extends to you in your role as far as your production of video poker content?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said that I don't pay attention and that it's important to me. There's a couple reasons, but I personally, I've always been really motivated by numbers, statistics. When I was playing soccer through college and high school and stuff, I would always keep track of goals, assists. Like I just love sort of rankings. Like I remember there was a national soccer ranking site, right? I would love to see where we ranked in the region, the country. I was emailing with the guy. Like I was really into that kind of stuff. And I don't, I see both sides where you could say, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, but I also feel there's something very powerful about having competition, which I think is good, to see, of course, on like Twitch, it's a little different with King of the Hill, right? Like with getting hosts and raids and like teams that are, it's like people go and they see the top channels, right? So like, it does really matter viewership and that. But I think that I don't want to, like I know that Facebook or I think Instagram, they're playing with like hiding like counts and hiding followers. Cause I do think it does get to be a bit of a dopamine and it gets a bit crazy, right? Where you start like really worrying like all the time, oh, how many people like my photo? How many people might read all that? So I think it's like a fine line. I think it's important to be aware of what's working, what's not. And it's good for feedback, but I also think that it can get a little bit too, where it's just like all you care about and you're doing stuff that's not genuine to yourself or, just getting caught up in it. Like, sorry, Jaman, I called you Jamal earlier. Jaman mentioned about that where it's like
Jamin.
Fun. Jamin, sorry.
Jamin,
I've never heard that name before. I like that. And I do follow you on YouTube. That shows you I'm not, I need to be up. I'm sorry about that. So
no, you're fine.
Cool I've not heard before. The points are very valid. I just think it's important as a creator to kind of understand, like, I think it's good for a benchmark, but you don't want to get too caught up with it. But also, as like you said, kind of represent a site where there is metrics, there are numbers, there are kind of things that people keep an eye on. I do pay attention to it and I do keep aware of it. And I am trying to constantly see what works, what doesn't work. Why does some videos more popular than others? You know, and I'm always trying to put out the best product possible that people are going to want to watch. So I would say that I do, you know, to answer the question, I pay attention to numbers, and you know, I just think I try not to make it like everything. I actually do have a cool project coming out with kind of poker and content rankings and stuff as well, which I can talk a little bit about later. But yeah, I do pay attention to it.
Cool. I like it. And looking forward to that exclusive reveal here on episode number 13 of The Orbit. Jonathan, I don't often make assumptions for the obvious reasons, but I'm going to assume that your answer here is yes. So you do pay attention to the numbers. But so I'm going to go a little bit deeper specifically with this question as relates to you. Obviously, you know, you've got product to sell. You want people to go ahead and purchase your coaching, your training stuff. To what degree or to what extent is the video content that you produce a direct function of that? And I guess I got to ask, how, when you do analyze those numbers, how do you adapt or change those, you know, the content that you produce to boost the numbers?
Well, so funny enough, my answer for YouTube content was no. I don't really pay attention to the metrics all that much.
Okay.
I just tend to make the content I want to. Huh. And I mean, I will look at some things and realize some things do better than others and do those more. Like, for example, they've been having all these heads up battles, right, between Phil Hellmuth and everybody else. He keeps beating everybody. Turns out people like seeing the absurd hands that Phil Hellmuth plays, looking at them from a GTO point of view or not the GTO point of view, whatever. People like that kind of stuff. And a lot of the content I make is, to some extent, for me to study and get better at poker. I have a few people who work with me who are like super world-class poker players, and they teach me, and I take that and I turn around and make training content for everybody else out of it. That said, like if you show me a GTO sim for a heads up spot, I can look through it in 2 minutes and be done, right? I don't have to make a video out of it, but it's like getting two birds with one stone, you know? I mean, if I'm going to do it, I might as well make double use of it and help everybody else at the same time. That said, I do worry about metrics with business a decent amount because that's some sort of a different thing. But in terms of the actual content, I don't worry about it so much. Like, for example, the other day I put out a video where it was me, Andy Frankenberger, and Nate Silver driving in a car to a poker tournament. We just like put on the camera, recorded us talking for about an hour. And it was not all that well received. It got way fewer views than all my other videos. But I don't really care because it was easy to make and it was fun. And I'm sure some people liked it. Everything you do is not going to be for everyone. But like if, you know, any number of people watch something that I make and they make it all the way through it means that they enjoyed it. They had a good time. And I don't really care if one video gets 1/10 the viewers of other videos because the people who watched it really like it. And that's going to help them, you know, it's going to let them get something out of the content that I make. Right. So everything you do is not going to resonate with everyone. And like you mentioned earlier, I have books and training site and all this stuff. Like with books, I have audiobooks and ebooks and physical books because people like reading books in different ways. Right. So you have to meet people where they want to be. And sometimes that's different types of videos. So I don't really worry about the analytics so much for what I make. I just make what I want to make. And like Jamin said, if you don't really like it, then it's probably not what you need to be doing. So make sure you're enjoying your experience as well.
I like that. It's a good answer. And I guess I got to sort of follow up to the floor, put that out there. You know, what is your gut reaction instantly if, you know, you're expecting a certain number of views on something that you've done and it's just like completely off the mark? You know, it's getting 10% of what you thought it would. Beyond, okay, well, I did what I wanted to do. I was creative. Is there any sort of, I got, you know, does that ever happen for any of you guys?
There's been videos that I've made that I've slaved over that I thought this is going to be the next big thing. This is going to be great. And then I released them and seen the numbers lower, and been a little bit disappointed, even though like Jeff said, like you don't want to like hyper focus on the numbers, but you definitely notice when something is, you know, a few standard deviations off one way or the other. Like you notice when this video didn't do very well, and you notice when videos do amazing. But the majority of videos just kind of follow somewhere in between, and I don't really sit there and study those numbers. But yeah, there have been times where I've dropped something, like Jonathan Mo said, most of those times it's when I've dropped something that hasn't had a lot of hands in it. You drop something in this space that doesn't have a lot of, I raised with ace queen over one limper type stuff in it. those videos for me tend to do lower.
It's interesting though, because that's something that I would say to the other sort of scope on that question is like what works and what doesn't, because it's tricky, right? You don't know, and like you said, it could be your maybe it's your actual best video, but it gets one of the least views. That could be when you released it. It could be you had a bad thumbnail, it could be you had a bad title, and this is the stuff that I guess kind of in a way I don't want to say stresses me out, but bothers me because like again, I think all of us. It's like we're to a point now where it takes money to make money. I know I'm more familiar with Jonathan and his operation. I know he's got a lot of people working for him. I have some people working for me. And like, I just want to make sure I'm not like messing up or I'm missing the low hanging fruit. It's like you do the hard work, you do all this stuff, but then, do you have the best thumbnails? Are you doing the right time releases? Like, how do you, there's algorithm, there's luck, just like anything, just like in a poker tournament, just like winning a flip or getting coolered or what time you register, like there's luck and there's luck with these type of things, but how much does it really matter? And how do you really know? And this is a bit frustrating, right? Cause like, this is what I think is kind of hard. And I don't know, you might think, but maybe you don't really know, right? You have an expert or something works for you, tells you that this is the best thing to do, but how do you know? Like, how do they definitely know, or how do they, maybe it's changed. So I think that's a bit tricky, right? Like it's just a little frustrating that you have to think like, oh, that all that other stuff really matters, including when I released the video. And as Jonathan mentioned as well, consistency is huge, just like on Twitch. Like you got to be consistent. Like I streamed for 2, 3, 4 years, like 2, 3 years where I was streaming all the time and it was very consistent. And then when you don't do it consistently, just like if you don't upload for a while or whatever, right? Like it is, that matters. That all matters. And as Jonathan has a family, and we have families, I have a 2-year-old, and it's just like it's not always the first priority. And people don't care, right? They want to know you're live every day. They want to know you're releasing this every day. Yeah. I would love to do a Rogan podcast style or something like I'd love to be like, yeah, I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or twice a week, or Friday at 2. That this is a live podcast, but it's not so simple with different time zones and traveling and whatever, and just not because it's not my only thing, right? And that's I think that's true for all of us, or at least I'm not gonna speak for everyone, but I don't have like a regiment on a lot of the stuff that I do, and I think that does hurt a little, but it's just part of life, and it's part of the whole process. But I think you got to just do it. If you do not, doing something's better than nothing. And I think a lot of people, because of this, they can't start because they want it to be perfect. They want the best equipment. They want to have this all lined up. But really, I'm just kind of diving into number 3 on what advice you give content creators. So I'll just kind of, since I talk aloud, just parlay that and tell you that would be my advice. If you want to do it, if you're thinking about it, just start. And I would say you just got to do it. Don't worry about the equipment. Don't worry about that you only have 8 viewers on your live stream and they'll be your relatives or friends, hopefully, that tune up. Don't worry about the video that won't get any views or it might actually be terrible. Like, you just kind of got to go for it and start. And I think that if you want to do it, for me personally, that will, and sort of like contradicting myself, but in terms of like the views and all that, like when I started a YouTube channel, when I started a Twitch channel, I just said, I want to do it. I love it. I love poker. I love people. This is a good fit. And I'm going to do it. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I hope I get a deal. I hope I get this. I hope I get these. That I think if you really love something and you just go for it, a lot of times it'll work out. It doesn't always, but that's where you got to come from. I think is just get going. And that would be my advice. Take the first step, put out the first vlog, make a Twitch channel and just go live and just try it. And people don't remember. No one's watching anyone's Twitch stream from 4 years ago or 5 years ago. My overlay, my graphics, my equipment, my team, like all kinds of stuff have changed, but that's you just got to go.
For sure. And I won't say that Jeff necessarily acted out of turn there because the button wasn't on him, but I think we can move the button to Jeff because that is, he did allude, he tipped our hand. He knows we do give our panelists the topics in advance so they can be well prepared for this show and have some good opinions. He certainly fired a good one. For those who didn't get the advance script, the question that we do have for everyone is, what advice would you give to an aspiring video content creator? And Jeff had some very wise words there and certainly made sense. Very good segue, and thank you for leading us into that. So I guess, Jonathan, you are the next to act on that specific topic. After everything that you've said and told us about your own personal content creation and what you do on the video front, what advice would you give to someone who just wants to start out in poker in the video content sphere?
Going back to the previous secondary question, like, everything you do is not going to be overly successful in poker and life and anything, and that is A-okay. I mean, Like you said, I had a whole bunch of books, and one of them that I wrote took me a long time to write. It was very difficult, and it just kind of got completely lost. Didn't get promoted well. Nobody really bought it. I mean, say nobody. Like, it was way less successful than the other ones. It was a whole lot of work. And, that's okay. Sometimes that's how it's going to go. Everything is not going to be wildly successful. So you just keep doing the work, right? Like Jeff said, you have to get in there and do the work, but you also have to keep doing the work consistently, and you have to be happy to do it. And I think a lot of people get into many extracurricular, unnecessary things like content creation with the point of view of, I need to make some money, so I'm going to go make some content. But that's not really how it works unless someone is directly paying you for your content, and that does not happen for most people. So I would recommend that you do whatever you want, have fun, make this stuff that you enjoy, and because you got to realize most people don't make money from their hobbies, right? And whenever you get into anything like poker content creation, it's a hobby to begin with. Whose computer's going off over there? Somebody needs to chop
It's mine. I'll turn it off here.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. I got there's multiple machines in here, and I thought I turned them all off, and apparently the noisiest one I didn't.
It's either that or you've got a tournament going on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody makes money from content except for Jamin. He got himself a whole new house. So congrats, good job, good work. Sometimes if you get in there and you grind enough, you will start making money from the content. But it takes a long time. He's an OG, right? You got to be in there and doing the work. So enjoy it and do what you like.
It certainly does. And I could say, probably pretty comfortably that of the three of you panelists, Jamin is perhaps the newest kid on the block, so to speak. We could have asked, you could have been that, in 2014, 15, seeing a show like this and saying, hey, I am, thinking about doing something, and hearing the answers. Hey, you've paved that road for yourself over the last 4 years, and you've trailblazed a path, and now others are looking to you. So, what would you say to others who are now in that position, saying maybe I want to give this poker video content a try?
The biggest thing I think Jeff hit right off the bat, just do it. Like, if you're waiting to try to make it perfect and you want the best camera and the best audio and lighting, you'll never get anything done. I don't know a content creator that thinks their first video was any good a year later. I know for me, I can't even watch my first vlogs. They're unwatchable. And it's just like it's just the learning process. You just have to get in there. You got to get your hands dirty. And you just have to make mistakes because you're going to make them. I still make them. I could probably speak for these two guys and say they probably still make mistakes. And they'll probably look on their content they're making right now in a couple years and be like, oh my God, what was I doing in 2021? That was horrible. But that's just a part of the process. If someone was getting into the space right now, though, it's interesting how there's been a shift in what kind of content hits and what doesn't. When I grew up with YouTube, it was all very cinematic. Lights were important. The graphics were important. The way things looked and felt was important. The quality of your video was important. Over the last year, 2 years, there's been a shift is underway, right? So you have things like TikTok, where people are just creating little snippets with their phone. YouTube videos that really go viral now are much shorter. They're not super produced efforts like they were 10, 15 years ago. And actually, Peter McKinnon did a really good video on this, just talking about this shift to these short form, Instagram Reels, TikTok TikTok type videos, and how those are becoming more popular. So if there was somebody that was looking to get into this space and was comfortable in that format, I would push them to that. Me personally, I don't really create those little short form snippet type videos, and that feels uncomfortable and unauthentic to me. So that wouldn't work for me. But just get out there, create something, make it authentic to you, make it fun, realize that it's going to be horrible, and just keep going.
Those seem like some pretty solid recommendations. I will say, just as far as like the first time you've created something, shout out to Jonathan. He was on our first episode of The Orbit when we were just creating and trying this out, and he is now the first two-time guest we've ever had here on episode number 13. And yeah, we've evolved as well from a pre-recorded, edited show to a live show. So we keep on trying to change as well and bring in the live audience, that sort of a thing. And we've got beautiful graphics on the show. Thank you very much to our wonderful producers, Des and Lee, for making this exciting. Final question for you guys. This is the beer round, as we call it. What are your vlogging, streaming, video production plans during this WSOP that's coming up this fall? Obviously, every single day, stuff is changing. We'll put it out in that way. But as far as having any sort of plans for what you're going to be doing beyond the playing, I'm talking more on the video content production side. Jonathan, why don't you start us off?
So I have a rather busy time between now and the end of the World Series. I'm going on a vacation with my family for about 3 weeks to upstate New York starting Friday. So I'm going to be there until 3 weeks from then. And then I'm going to come home for a day, do laundry, and then I'm going to go to Vegas because they're having the Poker Masters at the Poker Go studio. And then the Super High Roller Roll. I might be gambling in that. We'll see. So that will be a lot of fun. And I have my video editor who helps me with the videos very, very much, who helps me with the YouTube content and all the other stuff. He's going to be out there filming me and the rest of the coaches from my training site, pokercoaching.com, who are out there playing during the Poker Masters and also at the World Series of Poker. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go there, maybe play a World Series event or two right at the beginning, and then come home. Because the way the schedule is for the World Series this year is it's a lot of small and medium buy-in events kind of in the beginning of the series and a lot of mixed game stuff. And whenever you have a family and wife and kids, you have to go home at some point. You can't just go there and play the entire time unless you're going to take them all with you. So I'm going to come home for a few weeks, and I'm going to go out a few days before the main event, and he'll be there again recording me and all the other coaches and content creators who are out there. We're also doing things like giving away seats to people who are on our training site to go play random tournaments. They have a bunch of $500,000 buy-in tournaments. We'll do things like meetups where we'll have breakfast together, maybe play poker together, and we'll be there filming all that and hopefully, with any luck, making some content out of it.
I like it. Sounds like some exciting, interesting plans. I will say for those of us a little further afield from the WSOP who have to travel really far, you can't just go home and come back. But this year, for the first time, I am bringing my wife with me. So that I'm looking forward to that one. So she'll get to see the Rio. Jamin, what are your plans for the World Series? Not just playing wise, but also as far as some vlogs that you may be creating or even something else that we don't know about.
It's this one's going to be an interesting one because much like Jonathan, before every other World Series, I lived in away. I didn't live in Vegas. I lived in St. Louis. So coming to Vegas for the World Series was, you got to book plane tickets, you got to book hotel rooms, you got to have a schedule. I'm going to be out there for 10 days. I had to squeeze in all my playing and all my vlogging in such a short time period and enough to enjoy myself while playing, but still having enough content that I could edit when I get back home. Now I live here. So now it's going to be a little bit different. And I'm actually not worried, but I'm wondering if my Vegas vlogs, which are always my favorite over the World Series, will kind of have a different cadence because it's just like, I'll just go home. Whereas, after a losing session, I'll just go home. Whereas before, I knew I was going to only be out here for 7 to 10 days. And it was like, I got to squeeze in session after session after session after session. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting how that all sets up. I had been banding about in my mind, over creating, a really long form vlog for this World Series. So instead of creating a bunch of 15, 20-minute vlogs, maybe creating like an hour-and-a-half movie that just covered my whole series. But I'm still kind of thinking about it. It'd be a different challenge. It'd definitely be a different challenge. It'd be an editing nightmare. But we'll see how it goes. So right now I'm just playing it by ear, hoping some of the COVID stuff gets all cleared up. And everybody can have a good time.
Yeah, I think we could all use our one time for that one. It'd be good to have a somewhat normal World Series this year. Sounds like some good potential plans in the works. And Jeff, you had alluded to that you've got some cool stuff. Why don't you tell us what you've got in the works, specifically as far as the World Series goes?
Yeah, so the World Series, again, kind of up in the air on what's going to happen. Hopefully everything is okay and goes smooth. I've seen some kind of rule mentioned that was sort of suspect in about time, and who knows, right? Like I don't know. Like I thought this would be the record-breaking numbers and for the main and just everything, but it's kind of, there's a lot going on in the world, so we'll see what happens. I hope it goes on. I hope everything's smooth and people can go there and be safe and whatnot. But assuming it goes, my plan is, so 2017 was the first time I started doing vlogging literally at the World Series. I just started. And I actually know, so 2017 and 2018 were the first losing years I had at the World Series. And it was like, 10th, 11th year, I think, something like that out there. And every year I've had pretty good results, final tables and, whatever, just good winning years. And I sort of looked at it. I worked with Elliott Rowe and started talking about some stuff and trying to see what was working, what wasn't. And I kind of shifted out of, I was playing a pretty high stakes cash game for my primary income. And then all of a sudden I was doing Twitch. I had got a deal with PokerStars at the time and was just kind of shifting my overall perspective and taking a lot of my plate, I think. And now I kind of realized I was going very late to events. I was going with these events, 1,500, 3Ks, 5Ks, like 4 or 5 o'clock starting. They start at noon. I was going to bed very late. Even though I wasn't actually editing my videos, it's still, it's not so easy, right? You got to upload the footage. You got to come up with titles, descriptions, help with all that. You want to just the process wasn't all there. And I think there's a big part of why I was not, of course, running not well, but in combination of that with starting late, not being present at the table, you give up a lot when you're doing this stuff. When you're playing a tournament, you're going in between hands or taking breaks or whatever. So I then kind of shifted. I did get a videographer, someone to help and sort of film, but the rules have also shifted a bit in terms of what's allowed, right? Like the passes and vloggers and cash games and live, and it's becoming a little more normal, I think. So it's a little less taboo or a little less crazy. Still you don't want to be invasive in people's faces and there's rules and what you can do, but I think there's going to be a couple of reasons why it's going to be smoother. Also last year, and so the year before, I had a very young son, my wife. So it was a combination not being all the way there, kind of in or out. So this year though, I'm going to have my wife and son with me. I do have a condo in Vegas. So I'm going to be a lot more organized, and I'm actually going to have, I think, more of a little more professional outlook. I don't want to say exactly, but I'm going to do a couple things that I think will be unique, different, also make it less stressful. Because one of the things that I don't really, I feel it takes away from my overall creativity, but also just experiences when I'm holding the camera, I'm talking, I'm walking, what they're doing. So I really want to go big or go home, and I want to make it more professional, have actual real camera stuff and have people that can, deal with the uploading. I just want to play, in a dream world, similar to what I say on Twitch when I stream. There's so much other stuff that goes on. There's so much other work about giveaways and links and preparing. And it's not just you stream and you're done. I take a lot of times I'll stream 10, 12, 14 hours. And it's another hour and a half or 2 of work. Or the next day I wake up, there's more stuff to do, to follow up, to get the clips, make sure the right things are done, to deal with. There's just so many other variables. And I think that is, one of the things I will tip Hellmuth's cap is a guy's super present focus. And him and I become very close and we do some business together. But that guy literally won't talk to his wife on the day of a day 2. He won't even want to talk to her. He's just so focused and present that it's the opposite of what I do, right? I'm in there talking to everyone. I'm on every social media platform. I'm doing this. I'm talking. I'm on the phone. I'm taking calls. I'm coming late. I'm just so disorganized. And I think that is first of all, it's just not, doing your best, right? But it's also it's just, I want to get better at that. So I think basically what I'm trying to tell you is I plan to kind of have a theatrical experience. I want to make it high-end graphics, high-end production, be my best, be more on time, be more present, and not have to worry about all the side stuff. And I think that after a couple of years, obviously we had the year off last year, and then the year before I had my son was born in April, so it kind of took most of my World Series. I played literally on the main, but I think that I've learned a lot, I've seen a lot, and I think I kind of have a better idea of what I want to do, and I think that I'll be able to deliver a much better product and hopefully, winning results again. And the dream is like you go vlog and you win a bracelet, right? Like you just like that. How could it not happen? And then I look back after like 2 summers, I'm like, wow, I had really bad results. Like I didn't even make a foul table and I had some cashes, but it wasn't that great. And it's like kind of a kick in the face. Whereas like Doug Polk goes in there, he's vlogging a little bit, wins the 100K. Maybe a little better poker player, maybe a little better luck, maybe also a little better preparation. Of course, the bigger binds, field size situation. But I guess that's my main plan: be more focused, be more direct, higher quality, and also just working on a big content project in poker. I think I had mentioned to Jonathan back when we did our podcast live in Nottingham. I talked to you a little bit about it, but I've put a lot of time and work into a few projects, and this is one of them where it is going to be a poker content project for the community that I think is going to, I'm always one that I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, and I don't like talking before stuff comes to fruition. But I'm to a point now where I put a lot of time, effort into it, and I do think that I have a revolutionary sort of. There's so many coaching platforms, and there's so many new tools and studying, right? Like there's a lot of information out there in poker, but I think that one thing that really is lacking is the content aspect of aggregators, right? There's like the Twitch, there's YouTube, there's social media, but there's not really like a hub that sort of ties it all in. And if someone just wants to see some clips or their favorite content creators in a clean, easy format to do it for poker, I think poker is big enough of a market where that works. And I've got something that I've been kind of tuning up and getting ready to go. And then I'll reach out and Jamin, if you're interested as well, happy to share with you. But sure. I am on. I do think content's just so good for everyone. It's so great for the game, and hoping to do more of that along the way.
So it certainly sounds very ambitious, and I like that all three of you guys certainly want to go big, and you're setting goals for yourself. I can tell you, as far as the Orbit, we also don't want to overpromise, underdeliver, but there will be something going on during the World Series of Poker, as well as other stuff that we put out, other great poker video content here on twitch.tv/poker. Everyone, that is all the time we have for today. I hope you've enjoyed episode number 13 of The Orbit. Thank you very much to our wonderful panelists, Jonathan Little, Jamin Burton, and Jeff Gross, for joining us. We'd love to get your feedback, so please be sure to use hashtag The Orbit when sharing or leaving a comment on Facebook, Twitter, and all your other social media channels. And finally, this episode will remain available on demand right here, twitch.tv/poker. I'm Robbie Straczynski, and I'll see you all next time on The Orbit.